Welcome to the CPA Advisory Show. I am Jeremy Wells, CPA. With me is my co-host, Chris Hervishon. How you doing, Chris?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing all right. And super pleased to bring to you our first guest on the show here, Logan Graf, owner of, gotta make sure I get this right, Graf Tax Company, based out of Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Right? Good deal. Awesome. Welcome to the show, Logan. I'll let you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your firm, and welcome to the show, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. So I'm based out of Lander, Texas, near Austin, Texas, primarily a tax firm. Launched in 2020 after buying about 60 clients from a previous CPA firm, and mostly tax, but I'm working into more of the CAS side of things. So I think this is an appropriate podcast for me to talk on.
Absolutely.
I'm excited.
And you failed to mention that you were a TikTok extraordinaire.
Aspiring TikTok extraordinaire. Yeah.
Certainly doing it better than most CPAs anywhere else. So we are at CPA Engage today, and we have conned Logan into being on the show, and we're going to talk about some stuff that we talked about on Twitter a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So not only is it our first show with a guest, but it's also our first show mobile. Been a unique experience, but yeah, super pleased to have Logan. Logan, about a month ago now, you posted a tweet that really caught my eye, got me interested because my firm focuses more on the tax side, with a little bit of CAS thrown in. And I know you're similar, and you're working on moving in that, adding on CAS direction too. But your tweet specifically focused on the relationship between tax preparation and what has seemed to become the inevitable fallout of preparing tax returns, which is having to deal with IRS notices, taxpayer questions about the return itself, those kinds of things. In your firm, what is the relationship between tax preparation or just getting the return done and filed for the client and all of the stuff that can happen after that?
Yeah. So part of my services, I have kind of a 3-package deal, and your typical client will be the lowest level where I just prepare the tax return, and that's it. And I'll provide a video summary of it. And if they were to get a notice, that's kind of on them first to address it, and then for them to reach out to me as well if they want help. And then my middle tier provides IRS notice assistance. So they kind of buy into almost like a preset level of me assisting them with how to address that notice. And so this past, I guess, May was a big cluster because of all the advanced child tax credit notices being released. And I addressed it for a few of them directly, just because they were in a highly emotional state, and I could not diffuse it at the moment.
Clients in an emotional state? That happens in your firm?
Yes, for some reason, when they get an IRS notice, it's like a nuclear bomb is dropped off, and it's about to explode unless you do something. So, am I still headed in the direction for that question?
Yeah. I mean, it's getting more and more difficult to deal with the IRS, right? We're getting more complexity in returns, even simple returns, right, are getting more and more complicated. Is the focus on tax? We're told CAS advisory, all this kind of stuff. Is the focus on tax even worth it anymore? Is it still a viable business model to solely or even mostly focus on tax?
Only if you're priced accordingly, because if the money's there, then it makes it more right. But even still, if you're not able to scale with help, like getting help, then you'll still face the same amount of problems. So the more clients you have, I noticed this between like my first year of ownership and second year of firm ownership. Like the first year seemed to breeze, like no one was getting notices, and I was barely getting any contact from clients. Like, oh, I got a notice. But this year, because my client list increased quite a bit. It's like a exponential time suck now. And so I'm having to this past tax season, 2022 tax season, I realized I don't want to work that much again, and I'm now having to outsource some of that work, and then maybe even think about hiring a more full-time tax professional, um, just because there's so much more work involved in uh, than what used to be, like before all the IRS notices or before all the tax complexities.
So two questions there. You said an interesting word, which is scaling.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, what does that mean to you? And then number two, where are you finding these tax people? Because we are on the struggle bus with that. It's like impossible to find these people. Where are you finding them?
So I just got a contract with SurePrep for an outsourcing solution for 50 returns. You kind of buy a bulk set of 50 return minimum. It's a big chunk. It's a big investment. And so I'm using that as a way to offset the workload for next season. And
Onshore or offshore?
it's going to be the offshore version. So I heard from Sandy Johns, real estate member. She did the offshore, and she said the quality was there, so that gave me confidence to pull the trigger on that. But there's still the sheer amount of returns to review that I will still be responsible for. And I have a contractor that works for me, but his capacity is limited, and I've never really gone on the hunt for another tax professional, like as an employee. So I have no experience how to even begin that journey. And so I'm hoping this offshore solution will help right now. So scaling up means right now just increasing the amount of clients and then adding additional capacity, either contractor work or outsourcing work.
So more work, more revenue, but not necessarily more effort from you.
Trying to do that. If I work the same amount next tax season, as I did this past season, something is wrong. Then it's on me. And that probably means I added a ton of clients that I wasn't supposed to. And I didn't either fire enough clients or adjust pricing accordingly for my current client. And that kind of leads to, I'm doing a significant price increase. I have a list of clients where it's at least 10K worth of price increases over about 20, 30 clients. And the goal is to increase it so much to where they jet and they just, they don't see the value there. That's okay. That's just the economics of it. For my sanity, for my quality of life, that's okay. And then, and if they do stay, well, I have these offshore units that will, the price that I'm investing in that, the cost should offset it to where there is less time me preparing those returns. There's still a review function, but there's hopefully less time spent per client. Yeah.
It seems like we're moving to a model where it's just we're going to be relying on, as the owners and operators of these smaller firms, we're just going to be relying more and more on outsourcing more and more of the initial phases of the work.
Yeah.
And leaving more and more just the review and then the follow up with the client work. So is that the model then now? Do we just try to outsource? What happens when we've outsourced that layer, right? And you say, okay, I want to work less next tax season, but you still need to grow your business, right? And so more and more of the first tier of work is, that initial prep phase is done, but then, now you've brought on more work. So there's more work to review. And I don't know about you, but a lot of times I'm more intimidating more intimidated reviewing a return that somebody else has prepped than I am just prepping it myself from the beginning. So do you think that is the way to decreased overall workload, and then therefore, what might be hopefully a better quality of life, as a firm owner?
I think so. And it's also kind of a stepping stone for me as well. The plan is to have what we just talked about, to free up space so I can try to grow the CAS side of things. Because I'm running around with my hair on fire right now, and I can't develop, what it looks like to serve business clients very well. Maybe on the tax side, but not on the business accounting side. So I'm hopefully those tax solutions, the offshore solution, will help be like a stepping stone to where I can increase the business clients and then maybe even scale back the 1040s. But the thing is, like, if you could price accordingly, the offshoring is a great solution because you still make a decent amount of money with it. That's something that I'm gonna have to work on and figure out for this next year. Is it sustainable?
That's a good segue into the CAS piece of this. So I'm probably gonna ask every guest that comes on here, but what does CAS mean to you?
Yeah,
What is it?
client advisory services. I think that's what I've landed on.
Okay.
What it means, like the
What does that
acronym.
mean?
But what does it mean? So I think that means, um,
Leave that pause in there.
yeah. Put in some crickets.
Yeah. Don't edit that out. What is
I'll do
advisory?
one of Jason's like 5 minutes later, 3 hours later.
Yeah. And we're back. Yeah. So I think it means more than just your tax return, but I think advisory doesn't have to just be accounting. I think it can only include tax work, but it just makes more sense to add in the accounting solution portion of it too. So client advisory services to me means, like, from the client's perspective, someone that will, I know the words in there, be an advisor for you in the capacity of accounting and taxes. And so that basically just means packaging up your services to where you're able to be that advisor. So you package up your tax work, tax compliance, your tax planning, your accounting work, and then payroll in there as well, unfortunately. You just have to. And then
Everybody's outsourcing that too, right? I mean, it's
yeah.
that lower level that we were talking about with the tax piece.
Yeah. And then a higher analytical view of what their financials are. So to me, that's what advisory service is. It's more like a package system versus like one thing.
Packaged. So not necessarily project based, but some sort of cohesive offering.
Yeah. Yep.
Which you're billing by the hour, right?
I hope not. No. Maybe special occasions for like special work, but yeah, I don't. I love telling clients I try not to bill by the hour. Like someone just said, well, how many hours did you put into that for that quote? It's like, I'm sorry, but I don't bill by. I try not to price out by the hour. You had nothing else to say about that. So, like,
that's sort of the take that I've taken in my firm, I think, is where it sounds like you're heading, right? As you start off leading with the tax side of things, and then you start looking at, okay, beyond just preparing the return, how can I add more value to the client? How can I do a better job for the client? And part of that was selfish. Part of that was me saying, the tax return without good financials is too hard. And honestly, I don't trust anybody else to do the financials for my clients. So I might as well do it too. And I started off just trying to upsell. Got tired of doing that, right? I didn't want to be an advisor and a salesman at the same time. It felt like those were almost like conflicts of interest, right? So then I just made it a blanket requirement, right? If you want me to do your returns and there's a business component there, then I
Trying to
also
make
have to
that
do
jump.
both.
I'm trying to make that jump. It's hard.
Yeah, so that's the question is like where, what's your strategy as far as, now that you've got a couple tax seasons of running a tax firm, and you want to add the CAS component, what is your strategy there? Is it to go look for new CAS clients? Is it to try to upsell the existing tax clients on CAS? What's your take there?
I would say so. I'm kind of growing organically there. Like I maybe have 2 clients that I would consider my CAS clients, like businesses, and I'm really just taking baby steps into it, just because I don't know what it should look like for me and how I and what capacity I have to make it look like. And so um, I think I would try, like, if I make the jump, hey, I'm not preparing your business return unless we have control of the accounting. Uh, I think I would start there. And then if they, let's say I'm just like, all right, see ya. Then I need to start marketing towards that and telling clients like, hey, this is how we're rolling now. But I think once you kind of start getting business clients, I don't know, you just get that organic growth. They know other business owners. So, um, like I've never done any marketing. So they see if I need to eventually. Yeah.
So how does that conversation go? How do you start that conversation? What's the first question?
For a new CAS client,
Yep. Somebody that you're doing the tax return for, you want to turn them into a CAS client, you think that they can benefit from it. What's the question or the conversation? How does that start?
I honestly don't know. So what I think it would start, because the latest CAS client was I kind of took it over from a previous firm, and so they had it all worked out. But I did ask, I did ask, what do you need?
Mm,
Uh, like, are you needing accounting? Are you needing like monthly transaction uh, categorization? Are you needing uh, like a quarterly tax projection? Are you needing tax return? So I kind of went through the list of like, hey, kind of like of the advisory packages. I kind of just I asked them, what all do you need of those? And then I created a package around that. And um, I knew what they were filling, and for some reason, like the quote that I came up with was less, even if I kind of padded it a little bit. So I'm wondering,
uh-oh.
yeah, like, what did I do? Like, am I missing something? Like, is this a disaster client? But I'm not gonna say if it is or not yet. Uh, but pretty much, you gotta. I think I started with what they need. I'd figure that out, and so uh, I think it's right now. It's hard for me to uh, have like a set list of services of like, hey, here's what I provide, and then say this is you're fitting into this bucket, or maybe like have 2 different advisory packages. So I don't have that yet. That's something I need to build out. I kind of built that out on the tax side of things.
So how many packages are there on the tax side?
There's just 3 because I
Okay.
use Ignition.
Yep.
And we just got 3 right now. Ignition, if you're listening, why not more? I don't know. Okay, we talk about that.
Okay, so we've got 3 on the tax side. We've got 1-ish on the CAS side right now.
Yeah,
Goal is to get to 3. Is that accurate?
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah, I would love more of a systematized like product offering, because right now it's just like I'm just trying to get clients to figure out what works. Right. So
Well, and that it leads to a good question because that's something that uh, I'm trying to figure out in my firm is, so far if you look at what I'm actually doing for the client on the CAS side of things, it's bookkeeping and payroll, like you said, right? It's what would probably be considered just the very base level of the actual, uh, you know, CAS offering, right? Are you doing anything besides the bookkeeping and payroll on the CAS side, or are you thinking about, other CAS type services and how those might help clients? Because that, building up the capacity and even the capability, personal capability, to be able to offer those advanced CAS services, it's hard enough to keep up with the tax side of things, right? Lately. And so that's sort of a bridge that at some point I've got to figure out how I'm going to cross that.
Yeah. I would love to do more of an analytical or
It's a word. Could be.
I've been a
I'm fine with it.
It's Vegas. It's noon. It might as well be 2 a.m.
yeah,
Right?
analytical. I'd love to have like an analytical role for clients. That's a word, right? Like, Chris, you're looking at me like,
No, it's totally a word. Analytical. Don't edit that out either.
No, not at all.
But I've been doing like, I'll make quarterly videos for a few clients of me going through their financials and talking about like, hey, your accounts receivable drops tremendously. Like, and I'll ask the question during the recorded video, like, are you expecting an increase in this? Because right now your income for the year does not look as much as last year. What is up with that? Or, expenses, I'll see like a specific expense, like these are tracking well. And so kind of I guess might be a controller role, or I don't know, CFO role. That's pretty advanced, but just to provide some kind of like CPA perspective on their books. I think clients kind of like that.
So I'm imagining that people listening to this, their collective heads exploded about 30 seconds ago when you said video. So how are you doing the video? How long is the video?
So the video, like, I think I've done like a 15-minute one of me just kind of talking, and I'll share my screen. I won't do a live shot of me just because I don't want to try to like look nice for the most time. Most of the time, I'm probably like in a workout shirt while I do it. So I have like your typical Loom video. I'll have like a bubble of my face there, or maybe of my business logo there. And so it's kind of branded. I think I'll do the business logo for this. And so I'll share the screen, and I kind of have points to go over, like payroll points, accounting points, tax points. And then I'll kind of also share like the balance sheet or, the income statement, and kind of do an analysis on there. The more they see it and are able to understand it, the better, in my opinion. Because you could be like, well, that'll just teach them how to do that. And I was like, I don't think they would try to do that themselves, like learn that skill. I think they value someone doing that for them.
That's the advisory piece, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Jeremy, you look like your head exploded.
Kind of zoning out.
No, I think that's I do a similar thing. I've got clients where it's sending them a monthly report that QuickBooks spits out, right? I might customize that a little bit for the client, that kind of thing. And then I've got others where I'll do a little bit more of a overview, a little bit of review kind of thing, like that. And it seems like there's really two kinds of responses there. One is crickets, right? And the other one is thanks. Now just tell me how much, what my estimated payment should be, right? Estimated tax payment should be. And it always brings me back to, sometimes I feel like I am trying to push them to be better business owners, whether they want to be or not, right? And then they're always pushing back with, I just want my tax bill to come down, right? So do you think that's are we trying to push clients in a direction that maybe they don't necessarily want to go, right? I mean, does every business need to grow? Do we need to try to push every client to grow? And do we need to almost sometimes it feels like for me, force the accounting on them, right? To get them thinking more like owners, more like, because I work with a lot of small S Corp owners, and the reason they're small S Corp owners is because they're making a lot of money on the side and they just don't want to pay much taxes on it, right? So again, right, it's leading with the tax side of things and trying to pull in the CAS side.
Yeah.
Is that just the way I'm selecting clients, or is that more of a general problem of just, clients in general? Maybe we as a profession are not doing the greatest job of showing the value of the financial side of stuff. And is CAS the answer, right? Is CAS the answer to helping clients be the better business owners we're trying to push them to be?
Yeah.
That's episodes 10 through 50.
That's
Is CAS the answer?
All right, come on.
Right.
So this is like an earlier question I thought of, like kind of what to include in the advisory portion for clients. I think it's cool that Chris, you do almost an operational role for some of your clients. So you'll go in there and help with the ops. Like that's really cool. I would love to do something like that because I try to be as efficient as possible. Why can't I take what I've learned from different softwares and apply that to some of my clients? Like that'd be
Tech
really cool.
advisory.
Tech advisory role.
Tech advisors.
Yeah. Like I think our industry is kind of headed that way, is to be a tech advisor just because it makes sense. Like we are, I think it's almost like our responsibility to be on the forefront of tech for running your business because we're accountants. And so get out of the ledger book and help them run their business with better tech like that. I think those kind of go hand in hand. Like you can't have a good accounting system without good tech, in my opinion. I know there's the
Good luck.
ledgers. Yeah.
Good luck.
There's the paper people, and people still do it in ledger books. Like someone tweeted recently of like, look what I found from a client, or look what a client gave me. There's literally like pages of each account with the ledgers and
Hard pass.
yeah.
One tax season I worked for a small local firm. It was like late March, and I had, and this was 2019. And it was at one point I think I had about 6 or 7 those big white bankers boxes like piled up in the corner of my office, and all of them were full of Ziploc bags with like a month written on them, full of like Home Depot and Lowe's and Walmart receipts, like bundled into them, and just the client was paying for a tax return, right? They were paying for a tax return, and that was the tax return, right? That was the Schedule C inside that box. Yeah, and so that were in progress. For me, that tax season felt like just making that tower of bankers boxes go away. And so working for that firm taught me more about how I don't want to run my firm than it probably did about how to run my firm. But yeah, I think you're right there that the building out the accounting system and making it, you got to make it work for you, right? Like if it doesn't work for you, it's going to be that much harder to make it work for the client themselves. So yeah, I definitely think I spend a lot of my time helping clients think about, should I keep using QuickBooks Invoices, or should I switch to something like Stripe or something like that? And it's like, well, there's pros and cons to both, so let's talk about them. And I'm liking those conversations more than the how do I bring a tax bill conversation.
Yeah. To that point, I had dinner with somebody last night who said something really profound, which was what business owners don't realize is that it always comes back to the financials. Always. And like, that's kind of second nature to us. But if it always comes back to the financials, and if we're going to be this tech enabled society, then there's got to be a tech enabled finance function necessarily. Right. And that's us. It's got to be us. If it's not us, who's it going to be? So what are the takeaways? Number 1, tax fits into CAS. Do videos for your clients. right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
videos are awesome. Almost every client I've sent a video to, that was an awesome video. Like it's a very positive response. It's cool.
So what would you say to the accountant who doesn't want to do video? It's too hard. I don't look good on video. I don't sound good on video.
You get a nice picture of yourself and use that as what
Or
the
your
client
logo,
sees.
like you said.
Or your
Or your
logo.
logo. Yeah, even sometimes it's even better. And just start doing it. No better time to start now. It's super easy with Loom if you're like sharing your screen. So,
Agreed.
and it's way easier to communicate that way. You can over communicate through a video versus like screwing up an email and it taking like 5 other replies to clear it up, or a phone call.
Yeah.
You eventually end up on a phone call.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe you're prepared for the phone call. Maybe you're not because they call you randomly. And then the email, like if it's too long, like probably not going to read it. So it's like, what value did I deliver here? Whereas somebody can watch a,
Yeah.
5-minute video. It takes 5 minutes of their time. They understand it. They understand the tone. They understand what you're trying to convey. And it's great.
Yeah. What's great is if they ask a question and you know they didn't watch the video, you just say, hey, did you have a chance to watch the video?
Yeah. You can track it.
Yeah.
If you didn't watch it, then we know
Literally,
you're not doing your homework.
the answers, literally, I just talked about it in the video.
Yep. And then the third takeaway, we need to be the tech people. It's our job.
Yeah, I think that's a role that we can fit in nicely. And I'm sorry to plug Jason, but I
You have to.
Like,
Yeah.
he is a very good tech advisor, and he almost does a lot of things behind the scenes where his clients have no idea that he's running their ops almost for them, which is so cool. He helps us find the ways to help our clients to be tech advisors.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a good time for a plug, right? So if you're leaning in that direction, or you're considering that push toward more tech advisory stuff, all 3 of us here are members of the community called Realize, and I know I have benefited a ton from that community, as well as just following Jason on Twitter and seeing what he's putting out. So I definitely agree. So if digging more into the financials or just doing more tax work doesn't sound appealing to you, just start thinking about tech solutions that you could come up with for your clients, right? And that might be another way. You can create a lot of value with a free or pretty cheap Zapier account and a few apps to plug into it.
Mm-hmm. And we're sitting here because of that community.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome.
And the website, what is it? What is the Realize website? What's your website?
RLZ.io is Realize,
Mhm.
and my website's graftaxco.com.
Awesome.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Logan, I think you provided a whole lot of value for a whole lot of accounts.
Oh,
Absolutely.
That'd be
Appreciate you.
awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I'm like super pumped for this. Yeah.
Good deal. Awesome. Appreciate it, Logan. Chris, as always, thanks, man. And thanks for tuning into the CPA Advisory Show live in AICPA Engage 22.
Mhm.